What if science couldn't explain what you saw with your own eyes? I've spent years as a sleep doctor, watching people drift into dreams, studying their brainwaves, mapping their nights with numbers and graphs. It's supposed to be predictable. It's supposed to be safe. But one night, inside the quiet walls of my lab, I witnessed something that no textbook, no training, no machine could explain. This isn't just a case study. This is the truth of what happened to me, a true unexplained event I can never forget. I've spent most of my career studying sleep, the patterns, the rhythms, the way the human brain slips into darkness and finds its way back. But there are things that happen in the quiet of night that science cannot explain. One case has haunted me more than any other. It started like any routine study. A middle-aged man, mid-40s, plagued by insomnia and night terrors. He checked into the sleep lab at 9 p.m., the same as dozens of patients before him. Electrodes on his scalp, wires on his chest, sensors taped to his legs. Standard procedure. I remember the look in his eyes as I explained the test. Bloodshot, restless, but grateful. He said he hadn't dreamed in years. Not once. Not since his wife died. He almost whispered it, as if afraid the walls might hear. By 11:30, he was under. His breathing slowed. The monitors drew their jagged lines across the screens. Nothing unusual. I sat in the observation room sipping cold coffee, half reading a chart, but then the data shifted. First, a drop in heart rate. Nothing dangerous, 48 beats per minute. Then 46, then 44. The man's eyelids began twitching. REM sleep. Dreaming, finally. Dreaming. I leaned closer to the monitor, jotting notes. But that's when I noticed something wrong. His body was still. No restless movements, no twitches, just his eyes, darting wildly under closed lids. And then the sound. It came through the intercom connected to his room. At first I thought it was feedback, a faint whisper, rising and falling like static. But the longer I listened, the clearer it became. Words. A voice, not his. It was a child's voice. I can't wake up. The hairs on my neck lifted. I glanced at the feed. The man was alone, strapped to wires, chest rising and falling slow. No microphone in the room except the one we use for monitoring. I switched the channel, thinking maybe another room had bled through, but every other chamber was empty. He was the only patient that night. Still, the voice continued. Louder now. I can't wake up, please. Help me. I stared through the glass. He lay perfectly still, but the corner of his mouth twitched upward, just slightly, like a smile he didn't mean. The ECG beeped slow, steady. His oxygen stayed normal. Nothing medically alarming, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was inside that room. I tapped the mic. Sir, can you hear me? His eyelids fluttered. The smile deepened. And in that child's whisper, not his voice, the words came again. I can't wake up. I should have stopped the study. I should have gone in. But part of me was frozen, torn between doctor and witness, between science and something darker. The lines on the EEG began to change. Spikes I'd never seen before, not seizure, not REM, something chaotic, jagged, unnatural. The computer flagged it as artifact, but I knew it wasn't a machine error. The patterns looked deliberate, like writing, and then, on the video feed, I saw it. His chest rose and fell, his lips moved with each breath, but his eyes opened, wide, glossy, staring straight at the camera. Patients don't wake up in REM like that. They don't look through the camera like they know you're there. The child's voice hissed louder, almost panicked now. Don't let me stay here. My hand hovered over the door release. My heart hammered. Every instinct screamed to stop, to wake him, to tear the wires off. But something deep inside me whispered the opposite, that if I went into that room, I wouldn't come back out the same. And then I pressed the intercom again, my throat dry. Sir, if you can hear me, squeeze your hand. His body didn't move. Not his hands, not his legs. Only those wide eyes staring into the lens. His lips parted, and the voice that came out wasn't his. It wasn't even close. Hi, fragile, desperate, don't leave me here. I stumbled back from the monitor. My chair screeched across the tile. I checked the vitals against all normal. Heart rate low but steady. Oxygen perfect. IG still spiking with that unnatural rhythm. Everything said he was stable. Everything except the way my stomach twisted. I turned to the second nurse on shift. She had been watching silently, pale as a sheet. She whispered, "That's not him." Her voice cracked when she said it. The man's body jerked then, once like something had tugged at the wires. Every lead stayed in place, but the spike on the EEG went wild, lines scribbling up the screen. The computer flagged movement artifact, but I swear I saw something else. shadows. The corner of the room, just beyond his bed, was darker than it should have been. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, but the shadows stretched higher, like someone standing pressed against the wall, watching him, watching us. I grabbed the door key, my hands shook. The nurse hissed. "Don't go in there," I said. "He's seizing," but even as I said it, I knew he wasn't. His body lay still. Only the monitor screamed chaos. The voice came again, louder, like it was crawling out of the speakers. "Don't let them take me." I slammed the intercom mute, but the voice didn't stop. It slipped past the switch, filling the observation room itself. The nurse beside me clutched her ears, her face twisted in fear. On the screen, his eyes never blinked, his mouth stretched too wide now, smiling like his skin didn't fit right. My chest went tight, my heart pounded. Every inch of me wanted to run. Then the shadow moved. It peeled itself off the corner wall, slow, deliberate, taller than any person, its edges blurred like smoke in water. It drifted toward the bed. The patient's lips moved again, but the sound didn't match. It was the child's voice, shrill and broken. "They're here." My knees buckled. I grabbed the counter to keep from collapsing. The nurse sobbed softly beside me. The monitor flashed red. The ECG screamed flatline, but he was still breathing. The ECG shrieked flatline, a long piercing tone that should have meant death, yet his chest kept rising, his body kept breathing. The contradiction made my skin crawl. I fumbled for the defibrillator card, ready to crash the room, but then the EEG monitor lit up again, those jagged spikes, forming deliberate shapes. Not random, not noise, words. "Help me." The letters scrawled across the screen like handwriting made of electricity. I froze, staring, unable to move. Inside the room, the shadow leaned over the bed. I swear it bent lower, pressing against his chest, its form rippling like water as it sank closer. The man's smile twisted, stretched until his lips trembled at the edges. His eyes rolled back white. The child's voice cut through the intercom again, this time in a scream that cracked the air. "Wake me up." The lights in the observation room flickered. The nurse beside me bolted for the door. She yanked the handle, but it wouldn't open. Locked. Every emergency release jammed. We were trapped, staring through glass at something that should not exist. I hit the override, but the system was frozen. The monitors glitched with static, all of them at once. Through the haze, I saw the patient's body jerk upward like invisible hands had grabbed him and pulled him off the bed. He hung there, suspended, every wire stretching taut. And then, just as suddenly, he slammed back down. The crash rattled the camera, jolting the feed. The flatline stopped. The ECG beeped again. Normal. The EEG smoothed out to calm. Familiar waves. REM, just REM. The room looked empty. The shadow was gone. But I knew it wasn't gone. It had just shifted. I pressed the intercom. My voice shook. "Sir, can you hear me?" Slowly, his head turned toward the camera. His eyes were open again, but dull, glassy. His lips moved, barely. This time, it was his voice. Low, strained, broken. "You shouldn't have answered." The feed cut to black. The door finally clicked unlocked. The nurse fled down the hall, sobbing. I stood frozen, staring at the dead monitors, listening to my own pulse pounding in my ears. I stood frozen in front of the monitors, staring at the black screens. My reflection stared back, wide eyes, pale skin, sweat dripping down my temple. I could still hear the echo of that child's scream in my skull. "Wake me up." The nurse who had fled left the door swinging half open, the hall beyond dim and silent. I wanted to follow her, to get as far away from this lab as possible, but something kept my feet rooted. Maybe it was training, maybe it was stubbornness, or maybe it was that strange, suffocating pressure in the air that told me I wasn't allowed to leave yet. I tapped the intercom one last time, half expecting silence. "Sir, if you can hear me, move your hand." For a long moment there was nothing, no sound, no movement. Just the steady hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Then on the feed, that had come back to life, his fingers twitched. Just once. Barely noticeable, but deliberate. Relief and dread collided inside me. He was alive, but was it him? I unlocked the observation door with a shaky hand. Every warning voice in my head screamed not to go in, but duty pushed me down that hall. The floor was too quiet. My footsteps seemed swallowed, like the building didn't want to acknowledge I was moving at all. When I opened the patient's door, the smell hit me first. Not the sterile mix of alcohol wipes and latex gloves. No, it was damp, heavy, metallic, like rainwater mixed with blood. The man lay on his back, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. His mouth was parted, his breathing shallow but steady. The wires clung to him, each lead still glued to his skin. The machines hummed with normal numbers now. Heart rate 62.02, sat 98 EEG, waves.com, rhythmic, almost peaceful. On paper, he was fine, but nothing about this was fine. I stepped closer. "Can you hear me?" I whispered. His eyes shifted, not down to me, not left or right. They rolled slowly toward the corner of the room, the same corner where I'd seen the shadow before. My breath caught in my throat. I followed his gaze. At first, the corner looked empty, just pale green walls and a ceiling vent. But then, as my eyes adjusted, the darkness there seemed thicker, not the kind of shadow made by poor lighting. This was dense, heavy, almost breathing. I felt it before I saw it. A pressure, pushing against my chest, squeezing the air from my lungs. My pulse thundered in my ears. And then two shapes, blacker than the dark around them, eyes watching. The man's lips moved, dry and cracked. No sound came out. I leaned closer. That's when I heard it, not from him, but around him. The same child's whisper, weaving through the air like smoke. "He's not dreaming alone anymore." I staggered back. My heel caught the edge of the crash cart, and the clatter echoed too loud in the small room. The patient's eyes snapped to me, desperate, begging, but his body didn't move. He couldn't. I hit the emergency release on his electrodes, tearing the wires free. The monitors shrieked alarm, flatline, no signal. But he was still breathing. His chest still rose. He blinked at me, slow, deliberate, as if trying to tell me something. "Let's get you up," I muttered, though my voice cracked. My hand slid under his arms. He felt ice cold, too heavy for a man his size. I tried to lift him, but his head lolled sideways, and from the corner of the room came another sound, knocking, 3 sharp raps on the wall. I froze. The sound didn't echo like it should have. It felt close. Too close, like knuckles striking just inches from my own skull. The man's body jerked suddenly in my grip, stiff as a board. His jaw unhinged wider than seemed possible, and a scream ripped out to not his voice. Not the child's, but something deeper, low, inhuman. It rattled the floor beneath my shoes. I dropped him. He collapsed back onto the mattress, eyes bulging, spit bubbling at the corners of his mouth. The shadow in the corner writhed now, stretching long across the ceiling, arms unfurling like black smoke. I ran. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I bolted from the room, the sound of that scream still vibrating in my bones. My shoes slapped the tile, carrying me back into the safety of the observation booth. I slammed the door shut, chest heaving, hands shaking so hard I could barely twist the lock. The nurse who'd fled earlier had returned with security. They burst in, faces pale, demanding answers. I tried to speak, but the words tangled in my throat. I could only point at the monitor. They turned to the feed. The room looked normal again. The man lay quietly on the bed, wires detached, his breathing calm. No shadows, no screaming, no proof. The guard cursed under his breath. "He's stable. What's the issue?" I wanted to scream that it wasn't stable, that nothing was stable, that there was something in the walls, in the dark, in the silence of this hospital that none of us could explain. But my voice failed me. I just stood there, trembling, staring at that glassy-eyed man on the screen. Later, when they wheeled him out for observation, he spoke only once. His voice was weak, rasping, but the words were clear. He looked right at me, right through me, and whispered, "They know your name now." I didn't sleep that morning. I couldn't, and even now, years later, whenever I close my eyes too long, I hear that whisper again. Sometimes it's the man's voice, sometimes it's the child's, sometimes it's both, but always, always, it says the same thing. "Don't let me stay here." And I wonder if I ever fall asleep the way he did, if my brain ever slips too deep, who will be waiting in the corner for me. I didn't go home after they wheeled him out. I sat in the dark observation room and listened to the building breathe. I told myself I was writing notes. I wasn't. I was stalling. The nurse wouldn't come back. Security made one last round and left. The lab was mine again. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I made tea. It tasted like metal. The clock slid past midnight. Then 1. Then that number again. 1:47. My pager vibrated on the desk. No page tone. No message. Just a blank screen and a steady hum I felt in my bones. Then the speaker above me clicked. No announcement. Just the smallest exhale, like a child trying not to cry. I stood. I told myself it was fatigue. I told myself my brain was filling gaps. But I also knew this. The patterns repeat. Night terrors recur. Sleep paralysis returns at the same hour. The body remembers. Buildings do too. I did what I swore I would never do. I prepped a bed for myself. I sanitized the room. Checked the lock. tested the intercom, set the door to unlock on power failure. I wrote the override code on the whiteboard, big letters, red marker. I placed the crash cart just outside the door. Then I wired myself like any other study: IG on the scalp, IAG by the eyes, EMG on the jaw and chin, chest leads, pulse ox, respiratory bands around the ribs, camera on, mic live, printout rolling. I lay back. The mattress was too cold. The pillow smelled like disinfectant and old cotton. I watched the numbers steady. I slowed my breathing on purpose, in 4-4, hold for 2, out for 6, over and over until the room softened at the edges. The speaker clicked once. Silence. I let my eyes close. The drift came quickly, too quickly for a man filled with caffeine and fear. Hypnagogia swirled under my eyelids. Light that wasn't light. Shapes that weren't shapes. Then a drop, a falling feeling. Then the weight, the familiar weight. Chest pressed flat, jaw locked, eyes moving fast under lids I couldn't lift. Sleep paralysis. I knew it. I teach it, name it, and it breaks. That's the rule. I thought the name of it like a prayer. Paralysis, REM intrusion. Harmless. It didn't break. The room hummed around me. Not the usual fan hum. A thick, low sound that pooled under the bed and climbed into my ribs. The tape on my electrodes tugged as if a hand checked each one by one. Tug, tug, tug. Careful, clinical, patient. The microphone near my mouth picked up a breath that wasn't mine. Then a whisper right against the foam of the mic. You came. I tried to move my tongue. Nothing. I tried to flex a toe. Nothing. I tried to open my eyes. They opened. The ceiling looked wrong. Too close. The light fixture stretched tall, like glass pulled to a point. The corners of the room pulled inward, bending, as if the space wanted to fold shut. In the observation window, the camera light glowed red. Behind the glass, something stood, tall, blurred, head tilted like a question. The overhead speaker chimed. The hospital tone, not the labs, the buildings. Code blue. Long pause. Sleep lab. Room 1. My room. I felt my pulse try to race and hit the paralysis like a wall. The printer at my bedside began to chatter. Long strip. Black ink. Clean waves. Then spikes. Then letters. My name, not forward. Backward. Each letter built from e.g. spikes. Precise. Patient. A message written in my own brain. I tried to turn my head. Couldn't. My eyes flicked left. The corner. Every room has one that gathers the dark. In that corner, the dark trembled, like breath behind cloth. 3 knocks. Soft wood on hollow wood. Door frame measured. The intercom snapped open without a click. The child's voice. Not from the speaker, from the pillow. My turn. Pressure climbed up my chest, inch by inch. Collarbone. Throat. Jaw. The EMG on my chin crackled as if it were chewing static. I tasted electricity. I smelled wet dust. The kind you only smell in vents, in crawl spaces, in walls. Something small slid into my left hand. Cold. Weightless. As real as any hand I've ever held. The grip tightened. Not cruel. Desperate. Don't let them take me. I tried to speak. Air moved. Words didn't. The cardiac lead beeped in my ear. Too slow. 38, 36, 35. On the other side of the glass, the tall blur raised an arm. A lab coat sleeve hung from it. Mine, the badge clipped to the chest, was flipped backward. I could read the numbers reflected in the glass. My employee ID, backward. It tapped the glass with 2 fingers. Once, twice, thrice, then spread its hand. Thin, too long. It rested the palm there, like it was testing the temperature between us. The printer spat another line. Help me. Then a new line. Do not answer. I tried to understand both at once, and failed. The child's grip dug in. The tall blur didn't move. The room drank all the air and left me with just enough to keep thinking. The overhead chimed again. Begin compressions. The door behind the glass opened into the hall. I saw movement. A security jacket, a flashlight beam, a face I knew. The guard from earlier. He looked straight through the glass at me. He tapped the handle, he shouted something. His mouth made the shape of my name. No sound reached me. He tried the lock. He stepped sideways. Another me stepped into the frame. My brain rejected it before it accepted it. My posture, my hair, my coat, my hand on the guard's shoulder. My mouth forming words I couldn't hear. The small hand squeezed mine hard enough to flatten bone. Don't go with him. Something shifted near my right ear. A breath leaned close. Warm, rot sweet. The kind of sweetness you only smell in rooms with no windows. We live where you are watched, it said. Not a child. Not a man. Not a woman. A place, a room using a voice. My heart rate fell again. 34, 32. The pulse ox clipped to my finger flickered. The tall blur by the glass lifted its other arm and rested both palms against the pane as if it wanted to push through. The glass bowed inward a fraction, just enough to scream. I found a toe, tiny movement. Left foot, second toe. I dug my mind into it like a piton into rock. Move, move, move. A ripple ran up my leg, knee, hip, spine. My jaw popped. Air hammered into my chest. I coughed. Sound returned like a wave breaking. The room snapped back to the right shape, corners straight, light fixture flat. The blur by the glass thinned into reflection and vanished. The printer stuttered, then stopped mid-letter. The overhead went dumb. Silence that rang. The small hand let go. The cold stayed. I rolled sideways and ripped off the electrodes. The adhesive burned my skin. I stumbled to the door, slapped the release, and it opened like it had never locked at all. The guard grabbed my arm. His eyes searched my face for a version of me he had just spoken to. He didn't find it. "Doc, you okay?" I nodded. Not a lie, not the truth. Something between. My voice was a raw scrape. "You saw me." He swallowed. "I saw someone." We both looked at the observation glass. My whiteboard message was still there. The override code in red marker, big and careful. Under it, a new line had been added in a small, neat hand I didn't recognize. "Stay out." I packed the room myself. I powered down each monitor. I wound each cable. I pulled each piece of tape off my skin and threw it away like it might try to crawl back on. I took the printouts home. I shouldn't have. I know that now. I slept on the couch that morning. Not long. A chemical nap. I woke to the sound of my apartment intercom buzzing. No one there, just a hiss. Then 3 knocks on my front door. Measured. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The hiss leaned against my ear through a wall that should not carry whispers. "You answered." I didn't open the door that morning. I sat on the couch with the blinds closed, holding the printouts from the lab in my lap, paper trembling in my hands. The ink looked normal in daylight, black lines, numbers, timestamps. But in the middle, where the EEG had gone wild, I could still see the words etched out. Not random spikes, not machine error words. My name, help me. And then that last warning, do not answer. Every time I blinked, I saw the room bending around me again, the corners pulling inward, the ceiling warping, that tall blur pressing its palms against the glass, and that smaller hand clutching mine, begging. I tried to convince myself I had hallucinated it all. That sleep deprivation, stress, the suggestion of working too long around patients with parasomnias had made my brain slip. But the bandage marks on my skin where the electrodes had been said otherwise. The ache in my jaw from forcing a breath said otherwise. For 3 days I didn't go back to the lab. I told the hospital I was sick. I stayed in my apartment, curtains drawn, lights low, sleeping in short, shallow bursts. The kind of sleep that doesn't let you fall far enough to dream. The kind of sleep where you wake to every sound. But the sounds followed me anyway. The first night it was the overhead chime. Not loud, just a faint echo in the pipes above my ceiling. The same 2-tone chime we use before code calls. At 1:47 a.m., I heard it again. The second night, it was knocking. 3 knocks on the wall by my bed, hollow, too deliberate. The third night, it was the voice. I woke to my pager vibrating on the nightstand, though it had no battery in it anymore. When I picked it up, the screen glowed faint green. My name scrolled across it, then the message, Room 1, immediate response. I dropped it. It clattered to the floor. That's when the whisper came, soft as breath against my neck. "You can't leave us here." I turned on every light in the apartment. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. On the 4th day, I went back to the hospital. My chest felt hollow walking down those halls, every step heavier than the last. The nurse who had fled that night avoided my eyes when she saw me. The guard nodded too quickly. No one asked what had happened. No one wanted to know. But the lab remembered. When I opened the door, the smell hit me again. Damp, metallic, like rainwater and copper. The machines had been shut down, but the printer had kept running somehow. A strip of paper lay coiled on the floor like a snake. I bent down, heart pounding, and read the last line printed. "We know you now." The pen on the desk rolled toward me without being touched, stopped at the edge, as if pushed by a careful hand. I walked out. I told myself I would resign. I told myself I would never run another sleep study again. But the truth is, I still haven't left. I'm still here. I still hear the clicks at 1:47 a.m. I still hear the child's voice begging not to be left behind. And sometimes, when I check the monitors at night, I see it again. The tall shape in the glass, waiting, his palms pressed flat, patient, as though time means nothing to it. And I know one night soon, the page will come again. The code will call my name, not as a warning, but as an order. And when it does, I don't think I'll be able to stop myself from answering, because the truth is, whatever's waiting in that dark, whatever's whispering through the wires, it doesn't feel like a stranger anymore. It feels like something I've carried in my own sleep all along. Thank you all for joining me on these journeys. Your support means everything, and I love reading your reactions and personal experiences in the comments. If these stories kept you on the edge of your seat or gave you chills, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more haunting stories. Have you ever experienced something similar? Or perhaps you have your own unexplainable story to share? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Each of your stories adds another layer to our growing community of horror enthusiasts. And if you think someone else might enjoy a good scare, don't forget to share this video with them. Stay tuned for more spine-chilling stories. And remember, sometimes the scariest tales are the ones that could happen to any of us. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, if you dare.